There is no balance. You just have to do what feels right for you.
I became a mom at age of 18, so I was pregnant at 17. And so that comes with a lot of challenges. You don't need to change who you are. You just need to the number one you in this world, because there's only one you.
There's only one you. Tell the viewers a little bit about inward parenting, your style, and how you came up with it. And what was that point where you thought, just need to do this?
So there's this image that I always have in my mind. There's a little girl in front of the man. He's reaching out to her to say, give me the little bear so I can give you the big bear. Because the moment you start to listen to your own voice, you'll start to have love for yourself. That's how you find value, is by listening to your own voice.
If I'm good at something, why am I not going to go and shout about it?
When I was on the floor and I was crying, and my son, he came over to me and he rubbed me on the back and he said, don't cry, mommy, it's going to be okay.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another show. Today I'm so excited to be talking to Alicia, who's doing some incredible work. Alicia, hi, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
That's amazing. You're welcome. So let's just start with me saying, how do you do it? Wearing so many hats. Founder?
Yep.
Counselor?
Yep.
And content creator.
Absolutely. I don't know how I do it, but I'm doing it. And I think that one of the things that helps me is I have a background in project management, and so that helps me stay organized and structured. So yeah.
That's amazing. So tell me one thing, if you had to describe your journey in one word, what would it be and why?
I would say my journey has been challenging. The reason why I would say my journey has been challenging is because I come from what people would call a disadvantaged background, right? So I come from, North Birmingham, where it's typically deprived and people don't necessarily have those socio-economic, statuses. They don't have the nice houses, the nice cars. And then on top of that, I became a mom at age of 18. So I was pregnant at 17, and then I had my son at 18 years old. And so, of course, that comes with a lot of challenges. I'm also, having to navigate this environment that isn't necessarily typically where someone can thrive. But on top of that, I'm also a young mom as well. So I would say it's been quite challenging.
I get it. I get it. But look at you.
Thank you.
Inspired. First getting through your own challenges and now not even stopping there. You're inspiring so many out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying. I think the number one thing for me is to be real and transparent. I'm a very much authentic, what you see is what you get type of person. I don't like to wear masks and be someone I'm not, or try to be anyone I'm not. And the reason why I do that is because I want authentic people around me. And the women around me, I want them to say, she did it while being herself. She didn't have to conform. She didn't have to change. She is who she is. And she's out here doing positive things. So I think I want the women around me to understand that actually you don't need to change who you are. You just need to hone in on your power and really allow that to elevate you to become the number one you in this world, because there's only one you in this world.
There's only one you.
Yeah.
That is so true. There's only one you. There is no other Alicia in the world. So no matter what other people do, they can't do it the way you do it.
Absolutely.
So we were speaking about this earlier on when you came in and we had a little chat. You said something that tapped into your intuition. You were in construction work and then you thought, no, that's it. I can't be doing this. Tell our viewers a little bit about that, because that was such an interesting chat. I need that to come out in this.
Yeah, I think what was happening for me is I was working in a corporation, quite a big corporation, government funded. I'm doing project management. I'm working my way up the ranks. But when I'm going into the office every single day, I'm just feeling unfulfilled. I'm driving to work thinking, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be there. I want to do something else. There's more inside of me. I was noticing is when I was driving to work, I was typically just feeling like I didn't want to be there. And just feeling like I was not getting fulfillment from driving to work, going to do construction, working in these, corporations, and just feeling like this isn't the one for me. But what would happen when I was there is big, burly, middle-aged white men would just come and sit down and have a coffee with me or have a hot drink with me. And they would just bare their souls and they would just be really vulnerable. And it was just a different side to them being these, you know, these senior managers and corporate people. They would just be able to relate to me and open up to me. And so I recognized in me that was quite a natural gift that I had. People liked to talk to me. People found security and safety in me. And I think that's just always because I've never been one to judge. And I
You're an empath.
Yeah, I would say I'm a huge empath. To the point where I have, you know, I've been known to cry about any little thing simply by scrolling on social media. Yeah. So I'm a huge empath, and I think what really was happening for me in that moment while I was in the corporate space is that my intuition was telling me this is what you need to do. You need to just simply start to have connection with people. You need to start building community with people. And so that's why I decided to jump ship and go more into more community-based, people-based work, not building up, you know, I don't know, houses and, you know, buildings and, you know, things like that, but building up people, right? Using those skills that I have harnessed to build up people.
So you recognized your strengths.
Right.
You tapped into your intuition.
Yep.
And then you said, that's a girl. I'm
That's
doing
it.
this.
That's it. And I did it really fearful, right? I was scared because...
Of course. Tapping into intuition is great. We were saying that. It doesn't tell you, hey, you're going to smash it now. But
right.
Yeah.
I was just scared because, you know, here I am. I've come from disadvantage. I've come from poverty, right? We haven't had much. I'm at a point now in my life where, okay, I'm finally starting to feel some type of financial benefits, right? I'm starting to find stability financially within my life. And so that's a hard leap for someone like me to take, especially coming from where I come from. We hold on to jobs like that. We don't just say, oh, we don't want it. We hold on to those. But I think for me, it was a real huge toss-up when I was presented with an opportunity to relocate. And I said to myself, if I don't leave now, I'm going to end up continuing to be in this cycle and in this job that I'm not happy in. And I just felt like it was the universe's way of saying it's time now. You can let it go. And so ultimately, that's what I did. And I got into more community-based work from there.
So you broke the cycle.
I did.
Amazing. Are you proud of yourself?
I'm proud of
you
myself.
should be.
I am proud of myself. It's not been easy. You know, being a single mom, that's definitely something that, you know, you think about, you know, money all the time. That's like a huge thing for single moms. But ultimately, I recognized that once I was able to release those things, I actually was better off in the long run. And so I found that when I released, so there's this image that I always have in my mind when I'm about to take a leap of faith. And it's got a picture of, like, you know, a man, and it's got there's a little girl in front of the man, and she's got this little teddy bear, and she's holding onto this little teddy bear for dear life. But behind his back, there's this huge bear, and he's reaching out to her to say, give me the little bear so I can give you the big bear. Right?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I say when God's not giving you something because you've got something bigger planned.
Absolutely.
But that you've just put that so beautifully. I love that.
Yeah. And so I think what had to happen is, in order for us to make way and make room for something big, we sometimes have to put down the little things, because to us it might be huge, but when God has something that's like out of this world huge, we need to clear room and make way for it.
Let go of what's not serving
Absolutely.
you. For something else to come in.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
I agree. So
That's
I did
amazing.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely good. And you're smashing it.
Thank you.
Right. You know what? This is actually so powerful, but because a lot of people have trauma, most of us have things going on in our lives where it becomes traumatic somewhere.
Right.
But you have actually turned your personal experience in going out there and creating something so impactful.
Right.
What you're doing with your single moms, the web series, the inward parenting program you've come up with, which is absolutely amazing. I actually feel it's not only for single moms, because what we were talking about is most of our moms, most of us parents, we want to learn about that. So tell the viewers a little bit about inward parenting style and how you came up with it. And what was that point where you thought, just need to do this?
Okay, so for me, it's been quite the journey. And the reason why I say that is because me and my son was displaced very early on. So we was homeless. We went from a hostel Then we went to like a secure housing unit. And so the first 3 to 4 years of my son's life, we didn't have anywhere to really call home. And so as a result of that, what happened is I remember there was one pivotal moment where I remember I was just feeling really overwhelmed, like stressed. I'm new, I'm 21, 22, I'm a mom. I don't even know what I'm doing. I barely know life. And I'm going to work to a job that barely pays me. I'm going to nursery. The nursery are looking at me like, are you going to pay the nursery fees? And all these things are like adding up for me. And so I remember being really overwhelmed after leaving nursery, and I pushed the pushchair down the hill to my home at the time. And I remember opening up the door and I looked down, and this was my very first home, and there was a bill, and it was like an overdue bill, and it was huge. And I just didn't know what to do. All I could do in that moment was I broke down and I cried. I just cried because I just felt helpless. I felt like, how am I going to do this? I can barely raise myself, and now I'm having to raise a child. And I remember one moment when I was on the floor and I was crying. And my son, who was 3 years old at the time, he came over to me and he rubbed me on the back and he said, "Don't cry, mommy. It's going to be okay." And so in that moment, I feel like God was speaking to me through my child. I have to be honest. And I'm a very spiritual and deep person in that way. But I don't think I understand the significance of that moment until 22 years later, and my son is 22. And so now I'm coming full fruition. What's happening is I've created this space for women who have gone through challenges similar to the ones that I had been through. Specifically like that moment that I just described with my son. And I feel like what's happened is I'm being reminded of those challenges in comparison to where I am now. And I'm being reminded of those challenges so that I can understand that I worked my way through it. I was able to get back up, dust myself off, and just keep going and keep pushing on. Not only that, I was able to develop myself as a person, develop myself as a mom, develop myself just in general as a daughter. I wasn't always the best daughter. And so these are the things that I've had to learn along the way with a baby on my hip and another one 2-3 years later. And I just want to be able to impart that knowledge onto moms. And so that's why I created Inward Parenting, because it's basically my way of giving back to the universe, right? Giving back to God and saying, thank you. You helped me get here. You imparted knowledge on me. You taught me how to get through certain challenges. And so now I'm going to do the same for the other moms that I come into contact with. And that's what the organization is really about.
So inspiring.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. Thank you. What I understood, because we talked about this a little bit, in inward parenting. I'm sorry, but I'm just a little bit. It's amazing. How it's just inspiring when women actually steer their way through. And you know what? It's time to give back as well.
Absolutely.
100%. Anyway, going back to it. So you essentially are giving a whole toolkit to moms out there. You're saying don't feel overwhelmed because you understand that pain. You understand how deeply it can kind of break you.
Yeah.
And when you're not sharing, you always feel you're alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are two things here. Essentially, toolkit given to moms. Talk to me a little bit about that. Yeah. And when you're creating this community, what is the kind of that peer support,
right?
Yeah, that must be huge,
right? It really is.
So what is your take on that?
Okay, so I would say in terms of the toolkit, the number one thing that I had to learn was what was my attachment style. Why am I showing up in the way that I am showing up in the relationships that I have, not only with myself, with the people around me, but in particular my children. And so I would say I've not always been a perfect mom. And so one of the things that I want moms to understand is that once you learn what your attachment style is, it will allow you to identify why you do the things that you do, where it stems from in your childhood, and how you can navigate the spaces and the challenges with your children in order to be able to have better communication with your children, have better connection with your children, and also create a more, inviting a space for your children to just feel naturally want to open up to you and talk to you, because that's half the battle.
Oh, yes.
Once you have children that communicate with you and they feel comfortable communicating with you, that's half the battle. So attachment styles is one. Parenting styles is another thing. Mums need to understand what parenting style are you. Are you an authoritarian? Are you, more of a relaxed parent? Do you need to perhaps, find the balance between the two? And these are things that we also explore. Another thing that we do is we help mums in terms of career development. So we help with CV writing, right? Help them understand how to write a CV that's like 2 pages, no more than 2 pages. We know that, right? And so what are the key things that we need to put on the CV so that you can stand out to somebody who's recruiting? Also financial responsibility. When you're a single mom or a mom in general, let's be honest, finances aren't always easily accessible and readily available to everyone. So how do you budget the money that you have? How do you increase your credit score? How do you reduce the debt that you might have in terms of your credit cards or your loans? How do you start to take those things down so that you can start to build up your credit score and make those opportunities more readily available to you? Maybe you're thinking about purchasing a home or purchasing a car. These are all things that we need to have in hand. And it opens up opportunities for us. So I would say that's primarily the strategies, but also in addition to that, the very last day of the parenting program specifically, we have a self-care day, a day where we just focus on pampering. So you will be able to get facials, manicures, pedicures, just a day where you're by yourself without your children in a room with another bunch of women living their best life and being pampered.
Oh,
So
it.
that-
I love it. So in the
that's
nutshell,
something.
you're giving financial literacy.
Yep,
You're giving parenting styles.
yep.
You're giving attachment style, which
Yes.
I kind of intrigued a little bit as
Okay,
well on
yes.
what is attachment style, because we all know about,
Yeah.
you spoke a little bit about
Right.
parenting style. What is
Right.
attachment style
So
then?
attachment styles is basically saying that this is the type of attachment I have with the people around me, right? And these are the reasons why I have those attachment styles with the people around me. For example, if you're an avoidant person, it basically means that you avoid connection with people. You don't like people to get too close to you because for you, it's quite scary and fearful. And there may be something that happened in your childhood that makes you naturally avoid having deep connections with people. You might be an anxious person. You might want to have a relationship with someone, so you might dip in and out. Every now and again, you might be like, oh, I want to get close. Oh, no, it's too much for me. Oh, I want to get close. No, it's too much for me. So that might be an anxious avoidance attachment style. And then you might just simply have a secure attachment style. That's basically saying that you are completely okay and you have healthy communication, you deal with conflict really, really well. And so there are types of attachment styles that you could have. And it's basically allowing you to understand why you have these attachment styles and what they are and how they manifest within the relationships that you have.
Wow. And you kind of put that through kids as well, or is it
Yes.
only for the moms? Because I did, when I was researching on
Yes.
you, I was looking through
Yes.
and I came across a video of yours where you said, our own experience lead to limitation in our kids.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because you said all that our own experience in our childhood is actually dictating the attachment styles we are having, and now we are probably putting that through the next generation as well.
Absolutely.
So how does that work?
So I think one of the things that we don't recognize is children don't listen to what we say. They observe what we do.
Yeah.
Right. And ultimately what can happen is children can observe us in a space where we're not having healthy relationships with the people around us. And so that can ultimately manifest in they don't have healthy relationships with the people around them. So for example, my mom, love her to pieces. She's absolutely amazing. My mom is somewhat of an avoidant person, right? She doesn't like conflict. She doesn't do drama. But instead of her actually being able to communicate, this is how I'm feeling, this is why I'm feeling that way, she will hold on to that hurt, not express it, and almost create a sense of resentment.
Yeah.
She ends up emotionally trapping herself because she just hasn't verbalized how she really feels and she's not expressed it.
Is it because she knew verbalizing as well,
Mm-hmm.
expressing is not going to get her anywhere, or she didn't feel safe to express.
And I think this is why I say generational patterns. I think that what happened was when she was growing up, she didn't have a safe space to be able to communicate. And so that ended up following her throughout her life, where anytime I try and open up about how I feel, then I'm not going to be received with a safe space to communicate. The reason why I bring up my mom is not to, bash her. Absolutely not. But it's to let you know that that's how I am. I did the same thing. I would hold on to how I was feeling. I wouldn't open up and express myself because it wasn't safe to do so. And the reason why it wasn't safe to do so is because my mom learned that from her mom. So then my mom became that mom and I became that mom and I had to break the cycle.
Generational trauma.
Yeah.
That's what I say. That's so interesting. One thing we were just talking about, and you quoted something. You said, need becomes the value. I wrote it down here because I said, we really need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little about where does that come from and how do you navigate that?
I think what I mean is when we're moms, we ultimately end up carrying this mantle. And the mantle can come with a lot of hats. We have to do the cooking, we have to do the cleaning, we have to make sure everybody's okay, and we put everybody else's needs before our own. And so we become the primary caregiver for everyone. But that need that people have for us is what ultimately allows us to feel valued and allows for them to feel like we are valuable, right? And then it creates this like vicious cycle where she's going to do it for me. I know she's going to do it for me. And so I'm going to take. And so that need becomes the value, right? If my children need me, then I'm valuable. If my partner needs me, then I'm valuable, right? And so I think that's what I mean. How can we start to get to a point where
we value
ourselves
for what we are,
right.
not for the roles you kind of what you're giving out.
Yeah, not for the labels that are placed upon us.
No.
Just to understand that I'm worthy and I'm enough, and I don't have to pick up a plate and I don't have to cook a meal in order to be able to do that. Right? I am of value outside of being mom. I'm about value outside of being wife if you have a partner. I'm of value no matter who gets removed from me, what gets removed from me, what gets stripped from me. I am enough and I'm of value.
And how do you get that value?
I think it's about going within. I think it's about understanding who you are. And I think it's about you really sitting down and having those, I like to call them quiet moments where we just kind of stare at the ceiling and just be at one with ourselves. Because the moment you start to listen to your own voice and you drown out everybody else's, you'll start to feel compassion for yourself. You'll start to have love for yourself. You'll start to give to yourself. You'll start to pour into yourself. And I say that's how you find value, is by listening to your own voice. But the number one thing is we never really seem to do this for ourselves. We never give ourselves grace and we never give ourselves compassion. It's like sometimes I'll have a long list of things that I need to do, and I may have not done 3 or 4 things on the list, and I feel like such a failure by the time the night ends.
I'm going to batter myself for those 3 things I haven't done, for not achieving, but not going to recommend. Not going to say commendable girl that you achieved those 7.
Right.
Yeah, but you didn't achieve those 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, as humans, we naturally go to the negative, but the reality is you've give yourself a round of applause. You've completed 7 things. That should be celebrated. We should never really focus on the negative, but also focus on the positive. You did all that you can do today, and that is enough.
But does that come from being why are we so harsh on ourselves all the time? And it's funny because I did write an article about that today, saying we are enough and we are okay to go out there and say, I'm actually awesome at what I do. But we are not, we're conditioned to say, no, stay humble. I say that to my own kids. Guilty. Stay humble. Is there a difference between stay humble and show off? If I'm good at something, why am I not going to go and shout about it?
I think societal values are like really interesting, because I think what happens is there's a lot of pressure put on women specifically, where it's like, Do all of these things, but stay in your place, right?
Stay
Stay in a woman's
your
place, right?
Uh-uh.
Just do all of those amazing things, but don't hype yourself up about it, because at the end of the day, that's what women are supposed to do, right? And I think it just becomes the norm. We normalize all of the amazing things that we do as women, and it becomes a standard, and society says, well, you shouldn't get a prize for, cooking, cleaning, being a mom, and doing all of those things. That's what a woman's supposed to do. And I think that's where it really, really comes from. We don't understand that those things are to be celebrated and they are to be commended, despite what society may say, despite what cultural, standards may say. The reality is that, it's a huge job, and it should be celebrated, and it should be commended.
100%.
Yeah.
And if you want more, you're okay to go and want more as well.
Absolutely.
If someone's happy doing that, that's great. But if someone wants more, why do I have to shrink myself?
Right.
You don't.
No.
Nobody has to shrink themselves, but that's the societal values.
Right.
Very interesting, because you know what? It's we say culture, but I think it's across the culture. It's the same.
Yeah.
Women and men are whatever they say. There's patriarchy. There's lots of words which I don't want to get into right now, but why do we have to shrink? I'll give you an example. I love my parents to bits, just on record. Yeah, but the minute I did my education and my qualification was done and everything, and they knew she's ready. She's ready to gear up now. She's going to go out there and get what she wants.
Right.
I still remember the words of my parents before she gets too independent, before she can't adjust.
Okay.
Yeah, she needs to get married, because then as a woman, it gets very difficult. But it's not their fault.
No.
That's how they have been conditioned, and woman's job is to hold the family and nurture, which I don't disagree, because what a mom can do, what a wife can do, what a woman can do, a man can't.
Right.
What a man can't do, I can't. I don't even want to. Yeah.
I think that's important. Yeah.
But at the same time, we can want more. So it's a very interesting dynamics. Like, do we feel guilty about working a lot? I'm working a lot. Oh gosh, should I feel guilty about that? I'm not giving enough time into my family.
That was a huge guilt of mine. I have to be honest with you. That was something I struggled with. And I think even to this day, I have so many hats, like you say. And I think that's something that I struggle with. The guilt of wanting to be mom, a great mom, but also wanting to be an individual and go out and pursue my own hopes and my own dreams, right? And so be able to find that balance is sometimes difficult, and it is something that I feel guilty. Mom guilt is very real.
Oh my gosh, it's real. Talk to any woman, any mom. Mom guilt is a real thing. It's a real thing. Yeah, we spend our lives in guilt.
We do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Sometimes, we put all this pressure on ourselves and say, oh, I can't do that right now because, the kids. Or I can't do that right now because of X, Y, and Z. I've got to put my needs on the back burner. But I would say to any mom out there, wherever you can find balance in order to be able to have space and make room for yourself outside of mom, go do it. Because before you know it, your children will be grown. They will leave the house and they are going to have their own lives and their own families. And you don't want to be in a position where you've put your life on hold so much so that you're not able to tap back into life.
There is no balance, really, if you think about it. There is no balance. You just have to do what feels right for you as well. Your kid is your kid. Like, that love is unconditional. Only, obviously, fathers love their children as much, but we've grown that human being inside us. So that love is absolutely unconditional. No work, nobody else can take that space.
Yeah.
But yes, I need more. I need beyond that.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be guilt about it.
No, absolutely not. No woman should have to feel guilty about, still wanting to be themselves outside of mom. Before you was a mom, you was a person.
Yes.
And you had hopes and you had dreams.
You have dreams.
Right. And I think that what I love about motherhood, and I think it's quite badass if you ask me, is that despite the fact that we are raising human beings and we are the primary nurturers and caregivers, there are so many women out there that are doing amazing
Oh, they're
things.
smashing
right?
it. Yeah.
They're CEOs, they're boss,
Love
they're
it.
leaders, they're out here and they're doing amazing things. But on top of that, they're also mums.
Yeah.
And so
And
it's
they're very
possible.
proud mums as well.
Right.
They are giving it all because
Right.
as I don't know many women who don't give it all.
Mhm.
When we give, we
We
just
give it all.
give it all.
Mhm.
So as a mom, I'm giving it all. As a
Right.
CEO, I'm giving it all.
Right.
As a content creator,
Yeah.
you're giving it all.
That's
As a
so
community leader, you're giving it all. So we
Absolutely.
give.
Yeah.
But at the same time, make that space for yourself.
Mhm.
What brings you that joy, that fulfillment,
Mhm.
that fulfillment which was not found in the construction site, you
Mhm.
found today in
Yeah.
being what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're doing some incredible work, Alicia.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure speaking to you today. I feel like we can keep talking. There is so much more. We'll have to pump into episode 2. Yeah, thank you for being here. It's
Thank
been
you
a
for having me.
pleasure
I
talking
appreciate
to
it.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you soon. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you guys. Thank you for being here. What an incredible story and how inspiring this woman is. I'm going to actually keep talking to her for another few hours after this podcast. So probably you get some BTS.